Stugatz here for Dollar Shave Club. Thousands of athletes are going for the gold, and as the clear champions of the bathroom, Dollar Shave Club deserves a gold medal. Dollar Shave Club has everything you need to look, smell, and feel your best. Shampoo, body wash, toothpaste, they got it all. And of course, the best razors you'll ever use. You get an amazing, high-quality shave every morning from the DSC Executive Razor. Plus, the true gold standard of any morning routine is their Dr. Carver Shave Butter. It helps the razor gently glide across your skin. Dollar Shave Club delivers everything to you. That means no more trips to the store, wandering the aisles, hunting for razors, shampoo, and toothpaste, then playing cashier, scanning and bagging your stuff. Go for the gold. Join Dollar Shave Club today, and for just $5 with free shipping, you'll get the 6-blade Executive Razor plus trial sizes of shave butter, body cleanser, and one wipe Charlie's. Then keep the blades coming for a few bucks more a month. Get yours at dollarshaveclub.com/Dan. That's dollarshaveclub.com/Dan.
Greg Cody of the Miami Herald in with us today to ruin things right and left at every turn.
Hello.
I imagine Guillermo is mad right now at the Marlins because they ended that seafood race thing that they do.
Oh, don't be dismissive. Like, you're so cool. You don't know what it's called. This great sea race. Oh, the seafood. Yeah, Dan. There's shrimp and sushi running around. Please, get out of here.
All right. Well,
you know what it is. It's a travesty. You know it. And you're pretending to be so cool like you don't care about Julio and Bob and Angel. You know them. Spike. You know Spike.
I'm with Billy on this one. This is outrageous.
All right. I love mascots. I've been throughout my life.
You know who doesn't? Derek Jeter. He's firing them all. All of them.
Wait, Fat Chris, you have been on Jeter's side the entire time here. Give him time. Let's see the plan. Let's let it play out. This is where he's crossed the line for you?
Well, Rich Waltz, I wasn't too thrilled about either. But yes, this is terrible.
This is big. Mike Golick today went on Golick and Wingo with Adnan Virk, and he said Derek Jeter's ruining the Marlins. This is big. He crossed the line nationally yesterday, Dan.
And then he said Dan would be mad about this as well.
He did say that, yeah.
I love mascots. One of the things I love to make fun of Wilbon about is that since his early 30s, Michael Wilbon has been anti-mascot. And so he was an old person long before he was an old person. And I love to make fun of Wilbon about that. I have no allegiances to these mascots. I did not know any of their names. I read recently.
You don't know Julio?
So cool.
I'd never heard of Julio. I didn't until the other day when I heard that David Sampson, or somebody sent me a link that David Sampson one time got really angry because Julio won a race that he wasn't supposed to win.
You know what? I'm glad he's coming on this week because we need to press him on that because Julio was always losing, and I knew something was up. There's no way Julio's never winning, and they were so unfair to him. I thought always the costume just weighed a lot more because of all the arms, but I'm glad to find out that the fix was in on Julio.
Why were they prejudiced against the Hispanic
Exactly.
creature?
Exactly.
It's a great question.
Weren't they all Hispanic?
No, Bob's not a Hispanic.
Bob, I mean, come on.
Okay, but
Spike? Do you know any
there was on
spikes?
Hell. There was on Hell.
I don't know any spikes. I didn't go to school with any spikes.
Okay, so can we buy the costumes? The Marlins need money. Can this show buy the costumes?
What do you want to do with them?
Just have them?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, everything in that organization is for sale, so I imagine we can get them.
All right, let's figure out how to do that. Guillermo, since your last Marlins project went so well, you're in charge of that.
It would be so irresponsible of them to sell us those costumes.
That's a brilliant idea, though.
Could you imagine us racing up and down Ocean Drive
How much are they worth? No, we should have those costumes. We need to buy those costumes. The Marlins need money. We'll write them a check. Let's find out how to get those costumes. What do they need them for? Call right now. Allison, call the Marlins right now and find out how we can buy those costumes before other people try to buy those costumes.
I love that she immediately picked up a phone and knew which number to dial.
Yeah.
She's the best, man.
She's an assassin.
Yes, she is.
So you think there's going to be a big line queuing to buy these costumes?
No, but now that we've given the idea to people, there would be a bidding war for them.
Yeah,
exactly right.
I have a feeling they're very expensive.
That's why you don't say these things on air, Dan. We secretly buy the costumes, and then we're just running around with them one day.
So who do you call the Marlins? They actually have someone that you would call to ask
I don't
them about
think they
this?
have someone in charge of costumes.
Okay.
What's the point of this move, by the way? Like, when Chris told me yesterday, I just, smiled and was like, of course, this is ridiculous.
What is happening here, Guillermo, is that they're getting all of their own people. The funny thing about that is, except for Mike Hill. Except for the general manager in terms of choosing the players, Everyone else, they seem to be cleaning house on. They don't want anything from the past in there. They want to put their own people in those positions.
But the C race is so insignificant.
Agreed.
It's just a fun thing. By the way, my cousin gave me a great idea for what they should replace it with. They should have Derek Jeter running around chasing investors in the 6th inning. Think about that.
That's funny.
That would be great.
You deserve the Nick slap for
Way
that.
to go. First one ever for Guillermo, I think.
That's a beautiful thing.
Wouldn't you agree with my assessment that they're just sort of trying to eradicate any link to the past? The statue in the outfield.
Of course.
They just don't want you reminded at every turn. That's why if they'd ever put that Jose Fernandez statue up, I would have been interested to see how you would have reacted to Jeter taking it down.
But he's making Loria seem like the crazy fun uncle that had bobbleheads and fountains and sculptures and running around, and he was losing money so that we would have good players.
They're scrubbing a history. I mean, we have no history. What are they so afraid of? They're scrubbing any sort of history, any reminder to a terrible ownership group?
Yes, what they think, this is my guess here. I haven't talked to anybody about this. My guess is that what they think is the environment is so poisoned, and poisoned in a way that they had underestimated, because Jeter did not expect to get swallowed when he hasn't had an integrity stain on his resume publicly his entire life. He did not expect to walk into what he walked into. And I think that they just want to get rid of all of the poisons that remind anybody of who used to be in charge.
Yeah, unfortunately, Stanton, Yelich, Ozuna, and Gordon were not among that poison.
Yep.
I'll address the elephant in the room. These sea creatures were ugly. What? They were terrible mascots. Jeffrey Loria picked them out because he's got horrible taste in art. What? Maybe we're getting rid of these guys to make room for something new and cool. How about this? New and cool. Miami musician race, where you have a pit bull running. Oh. An oversized head with the oversized glasses and the chin strap. Come on. Yeah. Pitbull trying to race Gloria Estefan.
Oh, all right.
It's always Gloria Estefan.
That's not a bad idea.
Always. Yeah, it's actually a pretty good idea.
Yeah, he's onto something.
I like the idea better of Jeter chasing investors.
Me too. Getting approval for that would be weird.
And the investors are carrying
they're carrying
briefcases with money
yes, of course,
out.
money flying out the back, and then Jeter is just chasing them.
He's like the opposite of the Freeze. He never catches them, ever.
But they have to be mascots. They have to be a big paper mache.
The one that's got the biggest head start is just, I think they should just be symbols. Like there should be a block that just says stadium naming rights.
Right.
And
if he catches you have to do it?
Jeter has no chance of catching that one. That one's like a mile out in front. Nobody's ever been able to get that one. What else could we put in that race? What else? What little symbols could we put in?
It's just a giant dollar sign that he's running after.
What would be the Monopoly pieces that Jeter would be chasing in a new race?
Good public relations.
Oh yeah,
I feel like that he's actually done a decent job at. Like I think
that
he's
Verducci
doing.
piece, I could not believe how
I mean,
soft Verducci's a good
fawning.
reporter.
That was a fawning.
He was a good reporter.
Verducci was a good reporter.
The way it ended was ridiculous.
I mean, but there wasn't any reporting in it. We're just Jeter. It was access to Jeter.
Yeah.
That grants me an article, and it's like, man, what puff.
I was astonished to read through that and find out how soft it was. I mean, it was as if Jeter himself had edited it. I mean, it's weird, strange.
Right. Well, what kind of so we're saying that Derek Jeter's done a good job with PR. Outside of that, what has he done? I mean, outside of that one article.
I don't think anyone has said he's done a good job with PR.
I think he's doing a better job than the previous regime with community relations and outreach, and he's trying to get the team and the community on the same page, which they didn't seem to care about at all. Like, I know he's done a lot of stuff with charity. I heard that he did a thing where he's trying to donate all of the rooms and rooms full of used furniture and stuff to hurricane victims. And none of that stuff's reported because it's a lot of negative publicity. And I think he's doing a good job trying to ingratiate himself with the community.
Well, I can tell you this from having talked to some of the people around him. I can tell you that what he is banking on and what he understands, and he may have said some of this in these town meetings, is the idea. He understands that none of you trust him and that you'd have no reason to trust him, that he hasn't earned anything in this market. He understands that part. But in what he thinks he needs is the support of the community. And so he's fighting to win it. Mm-hmm. Because how do you support that? All he can ask for, he can't ask for your trust. He knows that.
That's interesting that he knows that. He knows,
can't ask for your trust.
Good.
How could he not know that?
Right. Well.
But what he wants is your support. And that's the reluctant give.
Oh, it's very reluctant at this point. What's weird, though, is that he's trying to build the team from the ground up. He needs to do that with the fan base, which means appealing to the little kids who say, Mom, can we go to the game tonight? And yet he's doing away with kid-friendly stuff like the Four Creatures.
But I'm guessing they're going to replace it. Don't you think? Or is it going to be the Yankee way? We're not going to have mascots because we're going to do it the Yankee way?
Well, they're just going to be Yankee mascots. Yeah. It's going to be a giant Paul O'Neill racing a Scott Brocious.
Bernie Williams, Mariano Rivera.
That'd be fun.
Ruben Sierra.
More people would show up.
You want to do that? Let's go ahead and do that. That's a fun game.
More people would absolutely show up.
Yes, you're right. Let's do this, though. How about we do this? It's always fun, we have found. We did this the other day with the 1993 Marlins lineup. How well would you do, Cody, with the 1993 Marlins lineup? The opening day lineup for the Marlins. Can you do it by position? 1993.
First base, Orestes Estrada. Second base, Jack McGillicuddy. Scott Pose was in center field. Charles Johnson was behind the plate. Charlie Huff on the mound.
Benito Santiago was behind the plate.
Oh, he was? Mm-hmm. Oh, Charles Johnson came later? Gosh.
Pretty good so far.
I don't know. I'm stalled, though.
Well, but
Magadan.
Dave Magadan is
Dave
third.
Felix in right field.
My wife used to have a crush on Magadan.
Walt Weiss on short. A lot of women had a crush on Magadan and Conine. In fact, who are the most crush-worthy athletes in the history of South Florida? Jason Taylor's very high on the list.
Darren Dalton's in that conversation.
He was. That's a good one by you, Stugotz.
Yeah. My mom liked Rob Nen for some reason.
Oh, I know a lot of Latin women liked Rob Nen.
Really?
A lot of Latin women.
Much like a dad.
Oh, but very masculine and the square jawline.
A young Miguel Cabrera, the women liked.
Oh, yeah.
Really?
Yeah,
Really?
He's super popular with the ladies.
A little heavy.
No, young Miguel Cabrera.
Young one.
Even the young one had a full
chubby.
face.
Yeah, a little chubby. Yeah. Baby fat.
This is one of my first indoctrinations to like what the athlete life could be. Miguel Cabrera's, like after his first year, after he exploded, after he goes opposite field in the World Series at 20 years old, after Roger Clemens brushed him back. Like his life changed right then.
So badass.
No, right that minute his life changed. Miguel Cabrera goes opposite field after being brushed back by Roger Clemens, opposite field in that stadium at 20 years old. But that offseason, he goes and does an ESPN The Magazine shoot, and the models had to just all run away from him because he's just swigging straight from the bottle, and it's straight out of Entourage. And we find out later that he's got a huge drinking problem.
Oh, yeah. Supposedly he drank during games. He'd put down a six-pack, go into the clubhouse, have a quick pop.
I've never heard that. Do you know that?
I've read it. I don't know it.
Read it where?
From personal knowledge.
Where'd you read it?
You could look it up.
All right. I won't.
Seriously, I can't source it.
I think you might be making that up.
I actually have a friend who is a bat boy for the Marlins who can confirm that.
Greg Cody might have just broken that as his source without realizing it. A friend who's a bat boy. You might have told your father that, and now your father's repeating it as if he read it. And I think what just happened there is you just betrayed your father on his source.
All I said was I heard it somewhere or read it somewhere.
I've never read it.
Okay, well, excuse me. If you haven't read it, then it didn't happen.
That's correct.
Just Googled the image Dave Magadan. Real victim of the slow, cruel hands of time.
Now?
Oh, yeah.
Does he look beat up? Does he look like he's lived?
Yeah, especially the nose.
I learned so much. Covering that team my first year because, Stugotz, I didn't realize my first year covering stuff that what journalism's rules were. Like I was still learning journalism's rules. And so I was happening upon stuff in the clubhouse all the time that was really suspicious. I remember specifically walking up to Sammy Sosa and Sammy Sosa talking about women in a way that was just completely surprising, given his public image.
Pre-Sam, you're saying.
Pre-Sam Sosa, that's right. And what I remember one time with Magadan, I do word association with Magadan. I remember him being so mad at me. He was a professional, classy professional the whole time. And one time I wrote a story. At the end of the game, he popped up, men on first and second to end the game. And I just wrote a whole article about how he was asked to pinch hit and he had been sick. And I just knew all about the sickness because he had told me for 3 or 4 days all the things he was struggling with the sickness. And then he got mad at me after I wrote the article because I just sort of like, I told the story of the sickness, and he's like, you're making excuses. Look at you. It sounds like I'm making excuses for why I popped up in that situation. I learned like 100 things like that season. I remember Gary Sheffield, the two people in my career, Greg, who have been most honorable about sort of raising their hand and being accountable for errors they've made with me, are Gary Sheffield and Tim Hardaway. Tim Hardaway, when I see Tim Hardaway, I am so happy to see him and so happy that he doesn't have any bad feelings toward me and us for him ending up. Like, a lot of people wouldn't have been that kind of accountable on the idea of, hey, this was me. You didn't trap me. I'm an adult. I made the mistake. I said the homophobic thing.
Did that take a minute with Hardaway, or did that happen right away?
It happened pretty immediately. Okay. I mean, after the media engulfed him, he was scared, and so that's not the instinct right then, but soon thereafter. And Sheffield, I just remember one time that he just pulled me aside, and Sheffield was a superstar at the time. Mm-hmm. And he just pulled me aside and wanted to talk to me privately in the batting cage, simply after having a conversation with his wife in which he just apologized to me for the way he had treated me. And I found it, given his reputation, right. I found it really, it connected me to him in a way that has, since grown after his career.
That's cool. I have a question for you, and I guess Greg, too, jumping off of the Magadan and Sheffield stuff, because I would have been intimidated covering Gary Sheffield because you were covering the Marlins and all of a sudden the superstar.
I was.
When's been the most intimidated you've ever been covering an athlete? Like, who still harkens back to a time where you were just terrified of them? Did that ever happen to you?
Was Bonds intimidating, Dan?
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Bonilla pulled Bonds off me the first time that I ever went to talk to Bonds. Pulled him off of me.
Wow, what was he doing?
It was the Pirates clubhouse, and because I didn't know journalism's rules, I did not know that you don't just walk up to Barry Bonds. And so I'm 20, 21 years old, and like evidently there's this force field around Barry Bonds. Right. Reporters know not to go in it.
Is that journalism rules or Barry Bonds' rules for journalists?
Well, I didn't know either of them.
Right.
And so I walked right into his space.
It's like not talking to a starting pitcher the day he's pitching. You just don't do that.
Or just don't talk to Bonds. But this was keep in mind, like, that reputation. Look, it might have been known in Pittsburgh, but I'm talking about Pittsburgh Bonds. So, like, not a lot of people outside of that clubhouse knew yet that Barry Bonds was kind of a world-class bleep hole.
Yes.
World-class. High praise.
Yeah. Congratulations.
I like the idea of, like, 23-year-old Dan, like, I know who I'm going to talk to. Barry Bonds. No one else has thought of this.
But I think you're giving him way too much confidence, too.
It wasn't that confident. No, I was scared. But the thing was, it had worked with Ripken and Canseco. They were huge stars at the time, and I just walked up to them. And, like, they gave me time. And Bonds got so mad, and Bonilla was yelling at him, and Bonilla's bigger than Bonds, and he's holding him off of me, saying, man, the kid doesn't know any better. He doesn't know. He didn't know, Barry. He didn't know.
Bonilla being bigger than Bonds. This was Pittsburgh Bonds.
That's right.
Wow. Greg, was there any situation where you found yourself in a similar place?
He mentioned Cal Ripken. I remember talking to Cal Ripken once during spring training about bunting or some arcane subject, and I couldn't get him to shut up. It was one of those things where he's not only not hurrying me to end the interview, right. he just kept going on and on about it.
So you don't have a story of being intimidated. You just have a story of you charming a legend.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, very good.
Hi, everyone. Stu Gatz here. Support for the Dan Le Batard Show podcast comes from our friends at Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Chances are you are confident when it comes to your work, your hobbies, and your life. Rocket Mortgage gives you the same level of confidence when it comes to buying a home or refinancing your existing home loan. Rocket Mortgage is simple, allowing you to fully understand all the details and be confident you are getting the right mortgage for you. To get started, go to rocketmortgage.com/Stugotz. That's rocketmortgage.com/Stugotz, STUGOTZ. Equal housing lender, licensed in all 50 states. NMLS consumeraccess.org number 3030.
Dan Le Batard.
Chris Cody, how is it that you had a sharp single off of Matt Lato's and also played with the big prospect. You played with the big prospect?
No, I coached against Lewis Brinson, the center fielder that we got back. He's a 5-tool outfielder, really good player. He went 1 for 4 against our awful baseball team.
Stugats.
Did you have your ace on the hill, or?
No, what you do is you start with the heat and you go high in the zone.
Right.
And then when the 2 strikes come, curve it.
He sits dead red with 2 strikes?
That's right.
All right.
What pitcher was it for you? Was it like your ace, or was it like a number 3
Our
guy?
number 2 was our number 2.
Number 2 guy.
This guy
What's he
stinks.
up to now?
Nothing.
This is the Dan Levatar Show with the Stugats on the ticket.
You may have noticed that the last segment ended with Greg Cody being asked a direct question and not even coming close to answering it. He's doing his own show. It's his own show. He doesn't care whether it fits in what we're doing. He just wanted to tell a Cal Ripken Jr. story that was flattering to him. He couldn't get Cal Ripken Jr. to shut up.
I didn't know I was under oath and had to answer a question specifically as it was asked. I thought there was a little bit of latitude there, Your Honor.
No.
So, Guillermo, what do you make of this? A texter writes in, all Jeter would have to do to improve his position is say publicly, hey, we're only going to tear it down once. One time. Does he buy himself anything with that if he were to say it? If he were to simply declare it, this is something, we're only going to do this one time because we got to clean everything out of here. Does it buy him anything with you, Billy, the biggest cynic?
Well, it's an impossible thing to promise, though. Like, there's no way you can promise that. And by the way, he's not calling it a rebuild. I'm sure you read that. He's calling it a build. But that's an impossible promise to make. Like, you can say that, but what are you going to do? The thing about it is I believe that he has good intentions, but it's such a difficult thing to ask, hey, I'm new to town. Just give me 5 years of patience.
No, it's a no-win. It really does feel like a no-win position to buy it with debt, to have the team not be good enough, to feel like you have to strip it down for whatever your business reasons are to nothing. And then now you have to, the way to win is you have to be smarter than everyone else.
They could have...
Hold on. Can you absorb that for a second?
Yeah, uh-huh.
The way to win
is Derek Jeter has to be smarter.
Jeter has to be smarter than everyone else because everyone else is spending money. So now you've got to be finding value instead.
No, he might be. I mean, I think that's where Chris has been all along. Let's give him a chance.
That's fine. You can give him a chance, but it's a big ask. You'd understand why people distrust the idea of, wait, Derek Jeter's going to try and do this on the cheap by simply being smarter at evaluating everything than everyone in baseball who's spending. It's a tough ask.
While other people are trying to do the same thing that he's doing, too. Like, we're not the only people who have traded people and who are trying to rebuild. The Pirates are doing the same thing. And we're assuming that we're going to be the ones to do it right because the Astros did it right and the Cubs did it right. Like, it's a lot to ask.
It's just so hard to have optimism. It's so hard to find support.
And it's the same actions from a previous regime who basically told you, you know what? Take it.
No,
there's nothing you can do about it.
It's not the same action. It's worse. They've never bare bonesed it this way.
Mm-hmm. No,
they've never done that.
It's the worst teardown in Major League history in terms of the wins over replacement, wins against replacement factor.
So there's nothing he could say. Like, it's a good thought, but there's nothing Derek Jeter could say. I mean, because you have a fan base that's been burned for years. Dan, he's just going to have to win. It's going to have to be actions, and he's going to have to win, and it's going to have to be sustained winning.
I do think, though, if publicly he were to say, instead of just saying what he said at the town hall meeting, which is, look, I'm here to win. I could have made money in a lot of places. I'm here to win. If instead of saying that, which is the measured Jeter, publicly specific, crafted way of doing it, he was more aggressive about saying, look, here's our plan. It's not to make money. Our plan is we need to strip this down, get rid of everything that was wrong here before, start totally over. And what I'm telling you is when it's time to spend, we will spend. But I don't think that he can make that promise right now publicly. Because I don't think he knows.
He can't make that promise because that promise would beg you to trust him. And he inherited from the Loria regime, he inherited so much distrust that was the go-to emotion when it came to Jeter, and he started selling off all these players. He just can't, he can say this will be the last time we do this, but nobody is going to believe it.
I really do feel those, Stugats. I don't know how you do this if you're the public relations person that Derek Jeter is. He's in a position now where every move they make, they fire a scout. He was, in the hospital with cancer. They fire their mascots. We get mad about that. They fire Julio. They end that. Like, everyone's getting mad.
Don't leave out
about
the luminaries.
I'm saying there is no thing they can do that will be viewed as the right thing. There's confirmation bias all over the place here. Everything they do is going to be the wrong thing.
I do think that the imprimatur of a Yankee legend who's known only winning throughout his career does give him a little bit of Teflon. I think it gives him benefit of doubt.
You are so wrong there. You are so many different kinds of wrong there. It has bought him nothing in this market.
Didn't buy him a second, Greg.
No, you are so many kinds of wrong on that.
I disagree with you. I disagree with you. He would be more vilified than he is right now if he weren't Derek Jeter. If he were somebody whose name we hadn't heard of before he was named CEO, it would be torches and pitchforks.
No, I think we care more now because it is Derek Jeter. It's a name we recognize. It's a name that is synonymous
Nobody's
with
going
winning,
after Bruce Sherman. If it was just Bruce Sherman doing this,
no, I disagree with that. I disagree with that. And also, I talk to I know and talk to a lot of Marlins fans, and not everybody is vilifying Derek Jeter. There is a sentiment there that, look, Derek Jeter, give him a chance, give him a little bit of time. His problem was he tore it down completely. He could have gotten away with trading Giancarlo Stanton because everybody expected it. Everybody knew it was a horrifically backloaded contract Loria gave him. But the problem was he then gave away, Yelich and Ozuna and broke up that beautiful outfield. Get rid of Stanton and then rebuild from there.
You don't think it bought him something in the early going, not when he actually got the team, but when he was in the mix to get the team?
Yes.
I think a lot of fans were like, oh, no, let's get the Jeter one.
But what I'm saying is once he started paring it down, that shiny champion glare gets, covered in feces. Like, once you tear it down that way, that integrity pillar, Hall of Famer, face of baseball, it buys you zero. It doesn't. Once you're back to, we're going to try and do this with coupons, and you're not going to know but a name or two on the roster. There is no winning from that position. There is no person I could put in that position who wouldn't be swallowed by it, because this person is as unimpeachable as there is in that sport. Like, there is no human being that I could put in charge of this that the fan base would be like, yeah, let's give him a chance if the payroll slashing starts immediately.
You're so right. If there's a guy that fans would trust blindly, it would be this guy. It'd be Derek Jeter.
Not Jesus Christ himself.
When I mention a benefit of doubt that he gets that some others wouldn't, what I mean is the assumption that this guy, nobody wants to win more than this guy because he's from the Yankees. He's a Yankees legend. All he's done is win. He's going to be embarrassed going 60 and 102, and he's not going to put up with that for long.
Greg,
and that's the message.
What does that mean? Wants to win and not going to put up with that for long. He's an executive. Like, what does that mean?
He can't control
wants to win more than Theo Epstein.
He doesn't want losing associated with his brand. And I'm speaking on behalf of
Greg,
people who really support him.
He made them the worst team in baseball this
year.
Did.
But
he did that.
I get what Greg is saying, because even though I've seen the numbers and he's sort of fiscally rewarded for having a bad team and that being having a direct correlation to the team's payroll, it would go against everything we know about Derek Jeter for this team to not, at some point in his vision, turn it around and be a winner.
Agreed.
That's what I'm talking about.
But he has said he's here to win. But what I'm telling you, having seen the business plans, having looked at both sides of the 48-page document, having seen everything in it, like, those numbers don't guarantee that he's going to do all of that. Those numbers guarantee that he's going to always be able to shave to solve his problems.
But I guess he still has something for me to know that and still think Jeter's not going to take losing for 20 years. There's an end game here, and the end game is to be a winner, to build the Yankees down south.
I know, but the problem with that and the place that I get upset is he, in this position of business, is in a no-lose position, because if it fails for 15 years and he's got this stain on his resume, he's still going to be able to make a lot of money.
Of course.
He already made his investment back. He came in for $25 million. I think Michael Jordan came in for $5 million. Mm-hmm. Think about that. Michael Jordan's just throwing pennies in. So he came in for 5 times as much as Michael Jordan.
Right.
And he comes in at 5 times that, and he makes his money back in salary. He gives himself a contract that's going to make all that money back. And now it's just, what kind of profits am I producing for the owner? And I've got bonuses in line with not having to make any cash calls. Mm-hmm. When you set the framework that way, if Jeter's wrong on doing it with coupons 10 years from now, he still gets to get out a winner. The ones that get bleeped are us. And
not down here, but in the Northeast, in the number one market in the country, yes, he will always be a winner. He'll always be clutch. He'll always be the greatest ever.
But I mean, like, what'll end up being the play is, what I'm telling you guys is, Loria bought into the club. Expos fold. He comes down here. They gift him the team. They give him loans. They make it so that Loria's right. You don't think Jeter's going to eventually end up in New York? Like, you don't think this is just a play? Like, Jeter wants to own a baseball team. Jeter doesn't want to be the CEO of a baseball team. He wants to own it. Like, he wants to be a big baller, a player. You think he wants to do it here or in New York? What's your best guess?
New York.
Of course.
And so, but that's what I'm worried about. That's baseball screwing Miami again that way, because they have already done it with the Loria team.
I don't think New York is possible. I'm not sure that team will ever be on the market.
Understood, but I'm saying, do you think this is the play? Because I don't think the play is to be the CEO of this thing. I think the play has always been Jeter owns it, and he has had to settle for being the CEO.
I agree with that. He's not the control guy. Sherman is.
Right, but own it. It doesn't have to be it could be the Rays, and he gets to be the guy there.
It could be the Rays. Yes. No, I'm not saying. I don't know anything about Yankees or how this, what the Steinbrenner family does with that.
He wants to be the majority owner of the team.
I'm telling you that's so. I'm telling you that is a fact, that as this thing was being put together, he was trying to angle himself to be at the top of the food chain, and they couldn't get the ownership votes on the money. The owners wouldn't approve that, so he had to go back and go to Sherman.
Right. Yeah, but maybe Sherman and Jeter have some sort of an agreement where Jeter works his way up to eventually owning the Marlins.
No, but that's okay, and that's another thing that seems to be in play, given the sweetheart. Do you have that Teixeira sound? Like, when Teixeira says this about his good friend Jeter, like, Teixeira has been a guy in public throughout his Yankee career and before that, not the guy who says controversial things. Certainly not the guy who says controversial things about his good friend Derek Jeter. Right. That Yankee clubhouse was really tight. And so Teixeira came on with us, and he was just talking about the idea, Cody, that he'd like the Jeter deal. That everybody
who wouldn't like the Jeter deal.
That everybody would like the Jeter deal.
Right. They needed the face. They needed a positive face for this franchise desperately, because it was Loria and Sampson for so many years.
Well, they had Stanton.
Yes, but in terms of management and leadership,
they've still got Mike Hill.
They needed Jeter. They needed Jeter the way MLS Miami needed David Beckham. He was just a magnet for trust. Unfortunately, he's betrayed the trust by selling everybody who's good.
Listen to Teixeira on his good friend Derek Jeter.
You feel so bad for the city of Miami that they get rid of one owner that they didn't like, and they brought in an owner that doesn't have any money. It's like, hey, guys, congratulations. We got rid of...
Wait a minute. Teixeira, do you text Jeter, hey, how'd you get all this power and a $5 million salary, and you don't have money?
Hey, can somebody please email me if they want to buy a team and make me owner and pay me to be an owner?
All right.
What a deal.
Attention shoppers, clean up on aisle 14. Clean up on aisle 14. Someone dropped the jar of pickles. Kosher pickles.
Beatboxing at a big box store. Surprising. What's not surprising? How much you could save by switching to Geico.
A red minivan has the lights on in the parking lot.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
Geico.
Don Le Batard.
I think I understand is your transition to do whatever you want. Like, it's just to push me back. It's your jab. I understand is your jab. It doesn't mean anything.
It doesn't mean a thing. Keeps you away for a second.
Yes, I understand, but it's not you actually understanding.
Oh, no, I don't understand a thing.
No, he absolutely doesn't.
Stugats.
And it's not just that either. He switches to a southpaw, starts jabbing with the other one with that's funny and interesting, and by saying that's funny and interesting, it gathers me enough time to say something of substance.
Mm-hmm.
Well, wait a minute. That's not true.
Well, the substance part.
It was a good impersonation.
Everything else, you were dead on to the end.
It was a good impersonation of Stugats. It gets me to the larger part of my arsenal, which is also useless.
This is the Dan Levatar Show with the Stucats on the ticket.
Texter writes in, Dan, you got to get on Cody for continually writing the obvious newspaper column.
What did I write? What's obvious?
Just whatever the headline is rarely something that surprises people because you have thought about things counterintuitively. I think it's the claim being made by text here. Those are not my words, though they are.
Right. Sure. Yeah, I know you feel that way.
No, I didn't say I felt that way. I made the words from the text say that. I'm not saying those are my feelings. Those are the feelings of the texter.
So the texter did not use the word counterintuitive?
No.
Okay.
Dan, you got to get on Cody for continually writing the obvious column.
It's a powerful tool to have, just to have your own feelings,
Yeah.
just voice them through the texters. I do it all the time.
You know, some people want me to fire everybody and, you know, what's Spo done lately? And, you know, you can't just write what's inflammatory. You have to write what's fair and what you feel.
But the one time, the most controversial time in your career, since Stugotz was clamoring here for an old war story segment.
Yes.
Because you guys...
War stories with a couple of old journalists.
You guys enjoyed those cruddy journalism stories.
Right. Love them, man.
I know what you're going to refer to.
Well, what's the second most controversial column you've ever written? For those of you who don't know, and maybe Cody's been burned because he suggested trading Dan Marino and keeping Scott Mitchell,
right.
Maybe he hasn't had a dangerous thought since then because of how that went for him.
Dangerous thought. I mean...
A dangerous column. A column that you're writing that you would consider dangerous. This is right on the line. This might get me in trouble.
Wow. I mean, I can't think of one offhand. I'm sure there have been. The Marino column, I still get emails about to this day, and that was, what, mid-'90s?
But that's not what kind of columnist Greg Cody's ever been. Like, there are different columnists in different markets, and what do you want your legacy to be? Like, Lupica is the guy, Lupica and Mariotti were the guys who Bayless would fire everybody. This guy needs to go, blah, blah, blah. There have been very few columnists in the history of South Florida who have ever called for a coach's firing. That's not how we wrote down here.
No.
You never have, right? You don't do that.
I mean, I'm not going to intentionally write the way Stephen A. Smith talks just to appease people. If you don't like my column writing style, you needn't read me.
I know, but that's what's happening.
No, that's not true. Because of online, I'm more read now than I ever have been.
Okay, forgive me. I didn't mean
Congratulations.
to say I didn't mean to say that you're not read. I mean to say that Stephen A's way of doing is the way that gets rewarded.
Sure, I get
Your way of doing is not the way that gets rewarded.
Well, it rewarded or noticed in an inflammatory way. I mean.
But you're staying true to yourself, though. Not that Stephen A. isn't, but you're staying true to yourself.
But Greg Cody, what can be said, and this is rare, and you can even say it could be a fair criticism of a newspaper columnist, that Greg Cody is rarely controversial. Rarely polarizing. When he writes things, they're not things that are harsh or filled with edge.
Right.
They're things, they're well-written things that are thought out, but they're rarely going to be so edgy that you put down the paper and are mad at like you're mad at the newspaper column.
I think you feel good when you read Greg's columns, right? Like, I think they're feel good.
I mean, I was on Jeter with a few columns in the middle of the fire sale there, like right after between D. Gordon and right after Stanton. I wrote columns that were critical, not that was coloring outside the box, because a lot of people were critical at that time, but it wasn't as if I was defending Jeter in print. In the middle of all that, I'm going to write what I think and what I feel. I'm just not going to contrive controversy.
I totally would. If I were a journalist, are you kidding me? Like you said, what do you want your legacy to be? I'd let people determine my legacy. What do they want it to be? And I'd write whatever it is that they wanted me to write. Should have done that, man.
Okay.
I'd fire everyone.
All right. I
fire Steve Kerr this morning.
I want to be a voice of reason to a certain extent. That's all.
And look, man, you've made a career out of it, as have I. But for some reason, I fancy myself a voice of reason, and I'm consistently polarizing and controversial. It's better for business.
It is. You're right. I mean, I could contrive opinions I don't hold, and it might suit me. Do you think that feel very good?
But how about that? How about that as a crafty veteran, late career heel turn?
You should.
I think you should try it for like a week.
Just pivot with a bunch of outrageous columns.
Yeah. Didn't Dennis Miller do that? Didn't Dennis Miller go from one side to the other politically?
I think so.
Because you wrote a recent column. It said he had only 3 points. This is the headline. He had only 3 points in his Heat return, but Dwayne Wade still owned the night in fans' hearts.
Right.
You got a heel turn on that one. Dwayne Wade, what a disaster.
That would have been the controversial
Everyone
column.
would have read that, man.
That would have been the controversial column.
It would have been. So what I can do is just simply sell my integrity for clicks.
That headline. Yep. Well, first of all, you've been doing that for a while, as you know. I love the headline just on a Cody column. Wade washed.
Wade, more turnovers than points.
Wade washed. And just a savaging column. Welcome home, bum.
Wade and Riley grow old together.
No, but Cody laughs. The columnists that you see on Around the Horn who come from another time, that's the stuff they would do. Woody Page does stuff like that, or did stuff like that.
But I have great respect for Dwayne Wade. I said of the trade that it's the perfect symbiosis, that both needed each other. And so 2 days later, because he scores 3 points in 22 minutes on only 6 shots, I'm gonna rip him. I mean, there has to be a consistency, right?
What you wrote, the obvious column.
Mm-hmm. Right. I did write the obvious
That's
column.
where this conversation started.
Okay. It was a feel-good column about a feel-good moment, and I don't apologize for that.
Mm-hmm. A texter writes in, can you guys help me understand this, Mike? Because I'm at a genuine loss on this. Like, this person, how long has this person been listening to our show? The guy or woman writes in, I trust Jeter as a talent evaluator. If he says players X and Y don't make the team better, I will believe him. Hating him because you think he might one day leave is conjecture. Miami has been bad for so long, so what's one more year, especially if it lets me see what Jeter's vision for the team is. I trust Jeter as a talent evaluator.
He's never done the job.
I mean, why? Yeah. Like, why? Then you just give your trust to anybody.
Right.
Like, you think Jeter has more of an ability to see what a player has than Brian Cashman? Do you believe that that's something that Jeter has?
No, but I do believe there's a lot of luck involved in this, and maybe he gets lucky.
But I'm saying the idea that you would trust that Derek Jeter is going to be better at finding value than other people, I don't know why you would extend him that trust. You might hope that. I don't know why you would trust that.
Well, I will say this. Jeter made a great hire in bringing Gary Denbo from the Yankees, and that's the talent evaluator. It isn't Jeter. Mm-hmm. It's Jeter hiring the guy who's going to be able to ID talent.
Okay, but that's and fine. This guy's writing in, I trust Jeter as a talent evaluator. I'd trust him more as a CEO builder of industry than I would as a talent evaluator. I've seen him create the Players Tribune. I've seen him create something out of nothing.
That's fair. So, I mean, it's a poorly written text there, but Jeter, I trust in that ability too. Jeter's ability to surround himself with good people.
Okay,
and people who want to work with and for Derek Jeter.
All right, so let's say that that's so, though. Let's just say that that's so. Derek Jeter has chosen to surround himself and is good at surrounding himself with people who are really good at baseball evaluation. Let's just make that a fact for the moment.
Okay.
Even still, you're asking them to be smarter than everyone else, cheaper. It's a big ask. I don't care how good you're at that unscientific job. It's a big ask to ask them. Theo Epstein's great, right? Allegedly great. They've got 30 innings of homegrown pitching talent in the last, I don't know how many years. They can't home grow their pitchers. They have to always go out and get Yu Darvish.
The guy that Jeter did hire, though, to Greg's point, he did replenish that Yankee farm system and did have Aaron Judge and Gary Sanchez on really cheap contracts last year.
No, and that's well and fine, and it's good that he did that, and you think he can recreate it. Okay.
I don't know if he can.
Okay, but the Yankees were doing it from a position of strength.
Correct.
The Yankees were doing it from a position of we will spend if we have to.
Sure.
You've got no promises that there's going to be any spending here. All of the payroll numbers are under league average for the next 5 years.
You can't really compare it to the Yankees because you're right. They were going the farm system route, and then Giancarlo Stanton became available.
I mean,
got to spend.
I think, by the way, just to clear something up, I think that what the two of us do in being critical of this thing, we're being labeled as haters, and that's not the case. Like, no one would be happier if this worked out than I would. If the Marlins return to prominence and win championships because of this plan, I will be thrilled. but I don't want to sit by idly for 5 years hoping that maybe things will work out.
Well, the other part of that is, even if it does work out in 10 years with South Florida surrounding this team, it doesn't make how they're doing it now any more right, given what's happened in this market before. Like, even if they do it on the cheap and are smarter than everyone else and cut coupons and tank for 4 years and then become the Astros and Cubs, even if they do it that way, it doesn't change what's happening right now, which is that if they fail 5 years from now, they could just slash again. The solution can always be to slash.
Right. We need to see evidence of an end game from the ground up with growing the farm system. But the problem was, we expected Jeter to be the knight on the white steed who came in and rescued us from Jeffrey Loria, and instead it's just more. It looks and feels like more of the same, and that's the problem. Is that